Hey, what's up, everyone? So this is the 300ZX from Hoovies Garage, as I'm sure some of you know. Just got it in today. Started looking over everything, cleaning out some stuff that was shitting up the car. Uh, Currently just have the fan tread out in here. Turns out the 2000 RPM but smooth idle thing was actually because the mass airflow sensor down here was disconnected. Plugging it in, I think it's actually working. However, it idles extremely rough now, and you pretty much can't rev it. Uh, Probably a nasty vacuum leak, I would assume, because there's actually some bolts missing from here. Story behind that is when I bought it from Kamal, he actually said that he had a mechanic come and he was going to try and replace the turbo himself. Something happened, mechanic had to leave and just kind of like threw the car back together hastily. So there's some various things missing. Like I'm sure, like they noticed that the airbox bolts and stuff is missing, and like the bolts on the mass airflow sensor are missing. So those are going to need to be replaced. And so hopefully that's not too huge of a deal to troubleshoot. I would assume it's a terrible vacuum leak somewhere, and there's probably just like a disconnected or cracked up hose somewhere. I mean, all in all, the engine side isn't bad. The only real leak right now is the power steering pump, and I'm pretty sure the rack too, like you said in the video. Uh, it's pretty bad when you turn. Pretty much just dumped some power steering fluid on my driveway and had to go clean that up. Kind of a pain in the ass, but you know, shit happens with these old ass cars. Now, moving around, the interior is actually probably one of the nicest parts of this car. Everything is looking pretty good in there. You can tell there's the back, and we'll get to that later. But yeah, everything in here is actually pretty decent. I mean, wheels a little bit torn up, 100k miles in the sun. You know that happens. Headlights work, hazards work. Surprisingly, I was actually messing with the shocks, and they actually appear to still somehow work a little bit. I don't know if they're completely dead or if it was just like me thinking it was working and really not. But there's a pretty good chance that they actually have some life left, which is surprising. I mean, power seats still work. You know, just basic stuff like that. There were some mouse droppings on the inside. I don't know when the mouse moved in. I was never told about that. But I pretty much vacuumed up the entire thing, including under the seats and everything. Probably gonna like end up taking both seats out eventually, just to make sure I get everything out from under there, because I don't want a biohazard car in the end. That engine hoist is gonna come in handy later. Obviously, I have to pull the engine for the turbo most likely. Now getting to the one main problem of this car. The underside is actually quite clean. I don't know how well this is going to show up on camera. But there really isn't any like decent. I think there's a couple tiny like little surface rust spots down here, but the underside is actually very clean, and that's what got me hopeful. But back here, and the two most common rust spots, of course, it got nailed pretty bad, as you can tell. This was under the toolkit. When this happened, I actually am not sure. I don't know how long it takes to get this bad, but I learned that this car actually sat outside by the Wizard shop for about 4 months. If this can happen within 4 months, tell me please, because I really don't know when this happened. Like, I know certain rust can form, but it's pretty bad. Luckily, this is actually kind of like a separate plate here that covers the rest of the body, and there really isn't any rust on like the rest of the body besides like a tiny little like surface spot here and there. So I think this side is fixable from what I've seen based on like various forum posts and stuff. It's a little rough though, looking at it. Now, probably one of the biggest problems is the spare tire well. This is another very common spot in these. And it's kind of rusted through. It's basically right on the borderline. Like I pretty much just caught it when it's just starting to go through. It was a little bit crispy when I was messing around back here, and it's not rusted through everywhere. Like in some spots, it's still all right, but there's a few spots I was able to take a screwdriver and just straight through. So this is going to be a giant pain. I'm going to try and save as much as possible and hopefully eventually weld in a piece of metal here. It's a lot of work. But I wouldn't want to see the rest of the car just kind of like die because of a common rust spot. But also some surface rust here. I'm assuming same thing with like the leak there. Usually it's the triangular windows that leak. I don't really see any water spots here, but basically I'll just have to eventually fix that, get a hose, and then basically just try and clean up all the rust in here just to make sure that it kind of matches the rest of the car and being pretty decent. But all in all, not quite disappointed yet. Hopefully that rust doesn't end up being too huge of an issue. Just because of the rest of the car is actually pretty good. But we will see how that plays out as I start the restoration on this thing. So, peace.